Hello, I'm Bud McCord. I'm here in Brazil, South America. It is December 22nd, 2021. I hope you're already seeing Jesus, hearing Jesus, loving Jesus because he first loved you, so you can share something of his life and his love with other people today. We're in John's Gospel. We're taking this verse by verse. We're just immersed in seeing, hearing, and loving Jesus as he was experienced by his very first disciples. Christianity is Jesus. Christianity is connection to Jesus. There's no such thing as Christianity without Jesus. Christianity is inspired and lived in connection with this person that we're watching as he completes the work the Father gave him to do. I know it's Christmas time, not Easter time. I've got that right. But I do know this, that by reading through this book, we've somehow come down right to the Christmas season to be finishing up here in the next week or so. I hope you've been enjoying this time. I have been deeply, deeply blessed by this time. We're in verse 10 of chapter 20. And remember that we've been talking about the fact that Jesus, by connection with human beings, transforms sinners into saints. He transforms ordinary people into extraordinary people, people who do things that they know they could never have done alone. When Jesus said, "Without me, you can do nothing," he was not exaggerating. But he is committed to delivering his love through you and through me and through anyone who would believe in him. Verse 10 says, "Then the disciples went away again to their own homes." That was John and Peter who went running to the tomb because they had heard this notification, this idea that something had happened with the body of Jesus. They didn't understand anything about the resurrection at that particular point. So they were there, they saw, the scriptures say that John believed, he understood that the body was not missing, that Jesus had risen from the dead. But Mary, she's still there. This is Mary Magdalene, and she is still there. And she is still convinced that someone has taken Jesus' body away. She appears to be a very practical person. She just is a person who is so attached to Jesus, you can't imagine that someone would have profaned his body or taken his body away and disposed of it. And she wants to find the body of Jesus so she can honor him and make sure that he's properly buried. She's not aware yet that he has risen from the dead. So in verse 11 it says this, "But Mary stood outside by the tomb weeping." That picture alone, if you just sit there and let that sink in, just try to put yourself in her place. Just try and put yourself in the feelings that she's feeling, and you'll be able to enter into the story if you do that. And as she wept, she stooped down and looked into the tomb. Maybe this is the first moment she has enough courage to actually look into the tomb, because I don't know that she emotionally was prepared to look into that empty tomb. "And she saw two angels in white sitting, one at the head and the other at the feet, where the body of Jesus had lain. And they said to her, 'Woman, why are you weeping?'" Now, I've never seen an angel. I'm assuming you've never seen an angel. But if I ever saw one, I think it would scare me half to death. But apparently the way they present themselves to human beings is in such a way that a conversation can occur. And she is so focused on this task of finding the body of Jesus, and she sees the angels, and they say to her, they initiate the conversation, "Woman, why are you weeping?" Because they already know what's happened. And they're witnesses. When I think of angels, I always think that the angels are the witnesses of God's history in the universe. They've seen it all. And they're not liars. They've seen it all. "Woman, why are you weeping?" She said to them, "Because they have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him." You can see this singular focus. This woman is on a mission. She wants to find the body of Jesus, and she wants to honor her Lord, her master. Now, when she said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there and did not know that it was Jesus. Now, when I read this last night before I went to bed, and then when I read it now 3 or 4 times this morning, And the way I study my Bible is I go into the Bible. I actually get into the experience. I'm sitting there. I'm reading this last night before I went to sleep, and then again this morning, and I thought, look at this. Jesus presents himself in such a way that she thinks that he's a gardener. Now, I live in a country where there's lots of gardeners and there's a lot of people that work with their hands to take care of properties and this and that and the other. And I'll tell you what, and I want to say this very carefully, they're ordinary. To human eyes, they're ordinary. They're not spectacular. But if you know what they do and how they do it, you have great admiration for them because you know that they're taking care of things that need to be taken care of, and they're responsible for making things beautiful. And she says, now when she turned around and saw Jesus standing there and did not know it was Jesus, Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking?" Same question the angels had asked. She, supposing him to be the gardener, said to him, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away." Now she's thinking that this gardener doesn't want this body, perhaps. And she says, "Look, I'm going to take care of this. If you'll just tell me where you took him, then I'll make sure everything's taken. I don't want to mess up your garden." She's very practical. That's one of the reasons I believe the scriptures, is because the story here is not embellished. It's, if it was a false story, if it was a mythical story, Jesus would be, 10 feet tall with a light shining around him, and he would be the victor over death, and he would be like a superhero. But he looks like a gardener. That stop and give that a little bit of thought. How would you want to be presented to the world after your resurrection? Well, Jesus wants to be seen as the same man, the same humble person that he was before he died. Because that's what we need. It's not what he needs, it's what we need. We don't need to see him as distance. We need to see him as coming close to us. Jesus said to her, "Mary." Now he speaks her name. Remember when Jesus said, "My sheep hear my voice, and I call them by their name"? "Mary," he says. She turned and said, "Rabboni," which is saying teacher. Or the word there, teacher, is more than just a teacher like we think of in a classroom. It's really mentor. The one who teaches me life. Mentor, master, teacher. Jesus said to her, "Do not cling to me." Well, apparently she fell at his feet, or she's clinging to him and his garment. She's emotionally releasing now herself back toward Jesus. But he is in a different phase right now. He's in the resurrection. He's headed back to the Father because he represents not just her, but all of us. "Do not cling to me, for I have not yet ascended to my Father, but go to my brethren and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene came and told the disciples that she had seen the Lord and that he had spoken these things to her. Apparently, if I'm understanding this correctly, at least based on only the book of John, she's the first person to see Jesus alive. Now that in and of itself is instructive, because this is a woman who had a very complicated past. This is a woman who washed the feet of Jesus with her hair and anointed him for his burial. And she's there now, wanting to continue that care for his body. And all of a sudden, he's standing there in front of her, and she is given the task of going and telling the disciples. Now, why would he choose her? Why would he choose her? I woke up this morning thinking about that. Why would he choose her? And I think it's because the miracle of Christianity is that we all feel equally loved by Jesus. I've been married to Pam now for over 50 years. And when I talk to Pam about Jesus, she feels as equally loved by Jesus as I do. When Pam and I talk about Jesus, we never think that Jesus loves us more than anybody else, but we never think he loves us less than anybody else. It's an amazing thing how that men and women, masculine and feminine, we may have differences of opinion about a lot of things, but when it comes to Jesus, we feel equally loved. And I've always found that fascinating. And I think that the reason that he sends her back to be the first eyewitness is because of the memories that they would have of her when she prepared Jesus, in a sense, for his burial and his death, and when she loved him, when she came out of her past, which was so complicated and filled with sin. And here she comes, and because she was looking for him, maybe the reason he sent her first is because she was the first person to go looking for him. You remember she got there early? She was the first person. And from this moment, everything changes. Remember that Jesus had told them that the world would be rejoicing and you would be weeping. That you disciples are going to be weeping and the world's going to be rejoicing. Hey, we got rid of Jesus. The problem's solved. Let's take a rest and let's rejoice. The problem has been solved. We did our part. We solved the problem, that problem of Jesus. Now, it's reversed now. Can you imagine when the news hits Pilate's house and the high priest's house, the Jesus problem has left the cemetery? It's almost comical, but it's almost like they thought they'd solved the problem. And now, 2,000 years later, he has definitely left the cemetery. He continues to be the most influential power and voice on this planet. Mark my words and mark the words of Jesus. Nothing is turning back what he did and what he wants to do. It's just a question of who will go with him and who will not go with him. That's the only question that's open really right now. Will you go with him or will you go against him? Are you with him? Do you see him? Do you hear him? Do you love him? Do you live him? That's the question in every country of the world. That's a question here in Brazil. It's the question in Europe. It's a question in Africa. It's a question in China. It doesn't matter where you go. The question is, what do you think of Jesus? Do you see him for who he is? Do you hear him? Do you love him? Do you live him? That's discipleship. So I ask you that question today. Do you see him? Do you hear him? Do you love him because he first loved you? And are you interested in making sure that other people have an opportunity to see him, to hear him, to love him, and live him? It's discipleship, and we are the disciples. Hey, have a great day. I hope that you will go back and read this and get into the story and imagine the feelings and the emotions, and it'll come to you, and you'll feel like, I'm there. I can see it. I understand it. I understand it. This is life transforming. Jesus loves ordinary people and turns them into extraordinary people who go, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I forgave. I can't believe I turned the other cheek. I can't believe I went the extra mile. I can't believe that I was kind and gentle. You'll be shocked, but don't be so shocked, because whoever Jesus touches, he transforms them into what I like to call love deliverers, cross-bearing disciples. They deliver love. Hey, have a great day, and Merry Christmas this coming weekend. God bless.